The phone buzzed against my thigh. Once, twice. A frantic, angry rhythm I knew better than my own heartbeat. I glanced down, shielding the screen with the heavy black sleeve of my doctoral gown. Mom, where the hell are you? Jacob's head is pounding. Bring a Gatorade to the east parking lot, now. Do not make us come find you. I looked up, fourth row, center aisle. There they were, Linda and Mark, my parents. They weren't looking at the stage. They weren't scanning the sea of graduates to find their daughter. My mother was aggressively typing on her iPhone, her face twisted in that familiar scowl, the one that meant someone, usually me, was about to pay. My father was wiping sweat from his forehead, looking around the auditorium with pure disdain, checking his watch. They looked annoyed, they looked inconvenienced, but mostly they looked for him, Jacob, my twin brother, the golden child, the boy who could do no wrong, even when he set the garage on fire at 16. Here is the funny part, the part that made a cold, dark laugh bubble up in my throat. They think they are here for him. They think I am sitting in the overflow section, lucky to just be invited. They think I'm here to hold Jacob's flowers, drive the car, and pay for the celebratory dinner with my waitress tips. They have no idea that Jacob isn't backstage. He's probably passed out in a motel room 3 miles away. They don't know he was quietly expelled 6 months ago for academic fraud. And they definitely don't know that the person standing at the podium, about to deliver the valedictorian address to the entire Johns Hopkins graduating class, isn't the son they worship. It's the daughter they used as a doormat. My phone buzzed again. Mom, Evelyn, I swear to God if you don't answer. I turned the phone off. I adjusted the gold tassel on my cap. The dean stepped up to the microphone. The room went silent. Showtime. To understand why I felt zero guilt standing on that stage, you have to understand I slept for the last 4 years. Jacob lived in a 2-bedroom apartment near campus with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the harbor. My parents paid the rent. Or rather, we paid the rent. I lived in what was essentially a walk-in closet, in a basement sublet, 6 miles away. My mattress touched 3 walls. I could hear the water heater scream every time the upstairs neighbors took a shower. I didn't live there because I was broke. I lived there because every Friday, like clockwork, my mother would call. Jacob needs textbooks, she'd say. Or, Jacob's car needs new tires. Don't be selfish, Evelyn. He's under so much pressure. So I would transfer the money. I worked 3 jobs. I scrubbed beakers in the biolab at 4 a.m. I tutored spoiled pre-med students who barely knew how to read. I waited tables at a diner where old men grabbed my wrist when I poured coffee. I was the mule. Jacob was the racehorse. My father made that clear during Christmas break of sophomore year. I had come home exhausted, my hands cracked from bleach and winter air, hoping for maybe a warm meal. Instead, I found Jacob laughing on the sofa, surrounded by empty beer bottles. He had failed 2 classes that semester. I had a 4.0 grade point. When I tried to show my dad my transcript, he didn't even look at it. He swatted the paper away like a fly. Grades don't make money, Evelyn, he spat, taking a sip of his scotch. Connections make money. Jacob is building a network. You're just grinding. You're the insurance policy in case the golden goose gets a cold. Know your place. The insurance policy. That night, Jacob stumbled into the kitchen while I was making a sandwich. He was drunk, reeking of expensive gin I probably paid for. He looked at me, his eyes glassy and cruel. Make me one, he slurred. Mick it yourself, Jake, I whispered, too tired to fight. He grabbed my plate and threw it. It smashed against the wall. Mustard and glass exploded everywhere. You think you're smart, he sneered, stepping close, towering over me. You're nothing. You're the help. Mom and Dad only keep you around because you're cheaper than a maid. I waited for my parents to run in. I waited for them to scold him. My mother appeared in the doorway. She looked at the shattered plate. She looked at Jacob swaying on his feet. Then she looked at me. Clean this up, Evelyn, she said coldly. And stop upsetting your brother. He has a headache. I dropped to my knees. I picked up the glass shards. One of them sliced my palm. I watched my red blood drip onto the white tile. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Something inside my chest, the little soft part that still wanted them to love me, finally died. It shriveled up and turned into something hard, something sharp, like the glass in my hand. That was the night I stopped being their daughter. I finished cleaning the floor. I bandaged my hand, and then I went to my room, pulled out a notebook, and wrote down a single number at the top of the page. It was the current balance of my bank account. 0. Okay, I thought, staring at the wall. You want me to be the help? Fine, I'll clean you out. While Jacob was busy failing Introduction to Philosophy for the second time, I was busy building the future. I didn't just study in that lab. I invented. My junior year, I developed a rapid response biosensor for detecting early-stage sepsis. It wasn't just a school project. It was a breakthrough. 3 months ago, a biotech venture firm quietly wired $500,000 into an LLC I created under a pseudonym. I was half a millionaire. And my parents thought I couldn't afford a sandwich. I wore the same frayed sneakers. I ate instant ramen in front of them. I played the part of the broke, pathetic student perfectly. Why? Because I knew them. I knew that if they smelled money, they would bleed me dry to feed Jacob's addiction to mediocrity. But they didn't need to know I had money to try and ruin me. They just needed my credit score. 6 weeks ago, my father summoned me to the living room. He sat in his leather armchair, swirling a glass of scotch, looking like a mob boss who was about to order a hit. "Evelyn," he said, sliding a thick stack of papers across the mahogany table. "We're refinancing the house. We need to pull out some equity. For investments." Investments, right. They needed cash to pay off Jacob's gambling debts or maybe cover his tuition for the school he'd already been kicked out of. "My credit took a hit," my father muttered, refusing to meet my eyes. "Just a small misunderstanding with the IRS. We need a co-signer. You have perfect credit. Sign here." He held out a pen. He didn't ask. He commanded. I picked up the document. I scanned the terms. It was a predatory loan. High interest. Balloon payments. They were setting me up. They planned to take the cash, spend it on Jacob, stop paying the mortgage, and let the bank come after me. They were going to destroy my financial future to buy Jacob another year of partying. My mother watched me. Her eyes narrowed. "Don't read it, Evelyn. Just sign it. Unless you want to start paying rent for that closet you sleep in." I looked at them. The disdain, the entitlement. "Okay," I said softly. "I'll sign. But," I reached into my backpack, "I need to use the notary form provided by the university. It's a compliance thing for my scholarship. If I take on debt, I have to declare it on this specific addendum." I pulled out a document I had drafted with a pre-law friend the night before. My father snatched it. He glanced at the header. It looked boring, bureaucratic. He didn't read the fine print on page 2. The clause was simple. In the event of a single missed payment by the primary borrower, full title and deed of the property shall immediately transfer to the cosigner via quitclaim deed in lieu of foreclosure. Fine. He grunted, signing the addendum without reading a word. Just get it done. I signed. They got their loan. They got their cash. And exactly as I predicted, they spent it. New car for Jacob, a cruise for Mom. What they didn't know was that the first payment was due 4 days ago. They missed it. I got the alert on my phone this morning. Technically, legally, and irrevocably, I already owned their house. The morning of graduation, the house smelled of rosemary and expensive roast beef. I walked down the stairs at 7 a.m., fully dressed in my black gown, my cap tucked under my arm. I had ironed the gown myself in the laundry room at midnight, careful not to wake anyone. I walked into the kitchen, expecting maybe, just maybe, a quiet congratulations, or a card, or a cup of coffee. Instead, I found chaos. My mother was frantic, arranging a massive charcuterie board on the island. Jacob was sitting at the counter in his boxers, holding a bag of frozen peas to his head, looking green. Finally, My mother snapped, not even looking at my gown. You're up. God, you're useless in the mornings. I need you to drive to the bakery and pick up the cake, then go to the liquor store. Jacob forgot to buy the champagne. I stopped in the middle of the kitchen. Mom, I said, my voice steady. I have to be at the stadium in 45 minutes. It's graduation. Jacob groaned, adjusting the ice pack. Stop shouting, Evie. My hip is splitting. My mother slammed a knife down on the counter. She turned to me, wiping her hands on her apron, her eyes raking over my graduation gown with pure disgust. Take that ridiculous costume off, Evelyn, she spat. We are not going to the stadium. Jacob is too hungover to sit in the sun for 3 hours listening to boring speeches. We're doing a family brunch here. For him. For him? I asked, gripping my cap tighter. He didn't graduate, Mom. He got expelled. The room went deadly silent. Jacob stood up, the ice pack sliding to the floor. Shut up, he hissed. No, I said, stepping forward. I'm done. I'm the valedictorian. I'm giving the speech. I'm leaving now, and I'm taking the car. My father walked in from the hallway. He was wearing his bathrobe, holding a coffee mug. He looked at me, then at Jacob, then at my mother's furious face. You're not taking the car, he said calmly. We need it to pick up Grandma, and you're not going to that ceremony. You're going to help your mother. Family comes first. I earned this, I said, my voice rising. I paid for this. I worked for this. I am going. My father set his mug down. He crossed the kitchen in 2 long strides. Before I could flinch, his hand cracked across my face. It wasn't a hard slap, not enough to knock me down, but it was sharp, stingy, disrespectful. Don't you raise your voice in my house, he growled, pointing a finger in my face. You are an ungrateful, selfish little brat. You live under my roof. You eat my food. You do what I say. Now go upstairs, change out of that Halloween costume, and get to work. I stood there, my cheek burning. I tasted blood where my tooth had cut my lip. I looked at Jacob. He was smirking. I looked at my mother. She was back to arranging the cheese as if nothing had happened. And in that moment, the last chain broke. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I looked at my father straight in the eyes, and I smiled. It was a cold, terrifying smile. Your roof? I whispered. I turned around, grabbed my keys from the hook, and walked to the front door. Where are you going? My father shouted. If you walk out that door, Evelyn, don't you dare come back. You're cut off. Do you hear me? You're done. I opened the heavy oak door. The morning air hit my face, cool and clean. I hear you, I said, not looking back. I slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. I got into my rusted Honda Civic, the one I bought with my own money, and reversed out of the driveway. As I pulled away, I looked at the house one last time in the rearview mirror. It looked beautiful in the morning light. It was a shame they were going to lose it all in less than 24 hours. I stood behind the heavy oak podium, the wood cool under my sweating palms. Thousands of faces looked up at me, students in black robes, families in their Sunday best, but I only watched 2 faces, row 4, seat 12 and 13. My parents had evidently decided to come after all. Not to support me, of course. They were scanning the rows of male graduates, their necks craning, desperately looking for Jacob. They probably thought he was just running late, or that I had lied about his expulsion to be spiteful. They looked angry. My mother was whispering fiercely to my father, gesturing at her watch. Then, the dean leaned into the microphone. His voice echoed like thunder. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, his tone thick with pride. It is rare that a university sees a student of such singular caliber, a student who defines the very mission of Johns Hopkins. My mother rolled her eyes. She pulled out a compact mirror to check her lipstick. She wasn't listening. This year's valedictorian, the dean continued, is not only graduating summa cum laude with a double major in biomedical engineering and finance, but she is also a pioneer. My father yawned. He checked his phone. During her junior year, she developed the Vance protocol, a rapid response sepsis biosensor that has already been adopted by 3 major hospital networks. My father stopped scrolling. His head snapped up. Just last month, the dean said, smiling at me, her startup, Novalex, closed its Series A funding round with a valuation of $12 million. Clang. My mother dropped her compact mirror. It hit the concrete floor with a sound that seemed to cut through the applause. She froze. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She stared at the stage. She stared at me. She looked at the giant screen projected above the stage. There was my face, Evelyn Vance, and beneath it, the list of accolades: patent holder, CEO, national grant recipient. I saw the blood drain from her face. It was as if she was seeing a ghost. My father was gripping the seat in front of him so hard his knuckles were white. He was doing the math. $12 million. I leaned into the mic. I locked eyes with them. Thank you, Dean, I said, my voice magnified, filling the stadium. I stand here today as proof that you can build an empire with nothing but grit. I'd like to thank the people who supported me. I paused. The crowd waited. My parents sat up straighter, a flicker of desperate hope in their eyes. She's going to thank us. She has to. I'd like to thank the library staff, I said, smiling, for letting me sleep on the sofas when I had nowhere else to go, and the financial aid office for believing in me when my own support system failed. The crowd cheered. My parents shrank back, as if I had physically slapped them, but the final blow was yet to come. I finished my speech. I sat down. The reading of names began. Underwood, Usher, Vale. My parents leaned forward again. This was it, the moment they came for. Vance, Evelyn. I walked across the stage. I took my diploma. The applause was deafening. Vargas, Maria. The name rang out. My mother stood up. She looked around wildly. Wait, she mouthed? Vance, Jacob? The line of graduates kept moving. Vargas, Venable, Walters. There was no Jacob. My father grabbed a program from the person sitting next to him. He tore it open, scanning the list of graduates with shaking hands. He ran his finger down the V section. Vance, Evelyn, that was it. He looked up at the empty space where his son should have been. Then he looked at me, sitting on the stage, holding the diploma, holding the future, holding the millions. And finally, for the first time in my life, he looked at me with fear. I found them waiting by my car. Of course they were. They knew I had the only set of keys to the Civic, and now they knew I held the keys to a lot more than that. My mother was wiping her eyes with a tissue, putting on a performance worthy of an Oscar. My father was pacing, checking his phone, looking nervous. When they saw me approaching, my mother practically lunged. "Evelyn," she cried, throwing her arms open. "Oh, my baby. My brilliant, brilliant girl. Did you hear them? Did you hear that applause?" No. Did you hear that applause? She tried to hug me. I stepped back. She hugged the empty air. My father said, stepping forward. His voice was different now. It wasn't the growl of the man who had slapped me 3 hours ago. It was the smooth, oily voice of a salesman. "Why didn't you tell us, Evie? We would have helped you manage it. You know I have experience with these things." "Experience?" I asked, leaning against the car door. "Like the experience you used to bankrupt your last 2 businesses? Or the experience you used to get scammed by a timeshare in Florida?" My father's smile faltered, but he held it. Now, let's not dwell on the past. We're a family. We're a team. And right now, the team has a problem. He gestured to a bench nearby where Jacob was sitting. My brother looked terrible. His skin was gray, his eyes bloodshot. He was wearing sunglasses, probably to hide the shame or the hangover. "Jacob is in trouble." My father lowered his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "He owes some people money, bad people, and the university. Well, we can sue them for wrongful expulsion, but we need a retainer for the lawyer. We were thinking, since you just closed this big deal, you could front us the cash. We'll pay you back, of course." I looked at Jacob. He lifted his head. For the first time in his life, he didn't sneer. He looked pathetic. Evie, he croaked. Elise, they're going to break my legs. I looked back at my parents. The audacity was breathtaking. They had slapped me, disowned me, and tried to force me to skip my own graduation. And now, 3 hours later, they were asking for a loan. No, I said. My mother's face hardened. What do you mean, no? We are your parents. We gave you everything. You gave me a closet, I corrected, and a bill. Fine, my father snapped, his salesman mask slipping. Be selfish. But you're coming home with us. We need to sort this out. Get in the car. Go home? I asked, a small, dangerous smile playing on my lips. To 42 Oak Creek Lane? Yes, obviously, my father spat. Where else? I pulled a folded piece of paper from my gown pocket. It was a printout from my email. Actually, I said, unfolding it slowly, I don't think you can go there. What are you talking about? The mortgage payment, I said softly. It was due on the 1st? Today is the 5th. My father waved his hand. I missed it. So what? I'll pay the late fee next week. You didn't read the addendum, did you? I stepped closer, holding the paper up so he could read the bold text. The document you made me sign, the one that made me a co-signer. I pointed to Clause 4B, accelerated title transfer. It says here that upon a single missed payment event, the primary borrower, that's you, Dad, automatically defaults on the equity agreement and full title is transferred to the co-signer to protect the asset. My father froze. He squinted at the paper. His hands started to shake. My lawyer filed the quitclaim deed electronically this morning at 9:01 a.m., I said, my voice ice cold. Just as I was walking across the stage, I pulled my car keys out of my pocket. The house isn't yours anymore, Dad. It's mine, and I'm evicting you. You're lying, my father whispered, his face turning a dangerous shade of purple. You can't evict us. It's my house. It was your house, I corrected, putting the keys back in my pocket. Until you miss the payment. Until you sign the addendum. Now, it's an asset belonging to the Evelyn Vance Trust, and my property manager will be there at 8 a.m. on Monday with the sheriff to change the locks. My mother let out a strangled sob. She reached for my arm, her nails digging into my gown. Evelyn, please, you can't do this to us. Where will we go? Grandma is sick. Jacob has nowhere to live. I looked at her hand on my arm. The same hand that had pointed to the floor when I dropped the plate. The same hand that had never held mine when I was crying in the pantry. I pulled my arm away. Jacob can get a job, I said, looking at my brother, who was now weeping openly into his hands. I hear the dining hall is hiring dishwashers. They pay minimum wage. It's hard work, but it builds character. Jacob looked up, his face wet with snot and tears. I can't be a dishwasher, Evie. I'm me. Exactly, I said. That's the problem. My father lunged. It happened fast. He lost control, the rage taking over the fear. He raised his hand, just like he had in the kitchen. You ungrateful little bit. But his hand never connected. A heavy hand landed on his shoulder. Is there a problem here, Miss Vance? We all turned. A massive campus security officer was standing there. Behind him was Dean Miller, the man who had just handed me my diploma. My father froze, his hand still raised in the air. Dean Miller, I said, smoothing my gown. Yes, these people are harassing me. I don't know who they are, but they seem unstable. They were just demanding money. My mother gasped. We are her parents. Really? I looked at the dean, because parents usually show up to graduation on time. Parents usually know what their child studied. Parents usually don't slap their daughter in the kitchen because she wouldn't skip her ceremony to nurse a dropout's hangover. The dean looked at my father with absolute disgust. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to step away from our valedictorian, or I will have you arrested for assault. My father lowered his hand. He looked small. He looked defeated. He looked at the stadium, at the security guard, and finally at the reality crashing down on him. You're dead to us, he hissed, backing away. If you do this, you have no family. I haven't had a family in 4 years, Dad, I said quietly. I had overhead costs, and today I liquidated them. I turned my back on them. A sleek black SUV pulled up to the curb. My business partner, Sarah, rolled down the window. She grinned, revving the engine of the company car, a brand new Lucid Air. "Ready to go, CEO?" she called out. "We have a champagne toast waiting at the Ritz." I looked back one last time. My mother was wailing, clutching her pearls. My father was shouting into his phone, probably trying to call a lawyer who wouldn't answer. Jacob was sitting on the curb, head in his hands, looking at a future that finally demanded he work for it. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the keys to the rusted Honda Civic. "Hey, Jacob," I shouted. He looked up. I tossed the keys through the air. They landed in the dirt at his feet. "You can have the Honda," I said. "It needs an oil change. Don't be late." I got into the passenger seat of the luxury car. The door closed with a solid, expensive thud, sealing out their screams. "Drive," I said, as we pulled away, leaving them stranded in the parking lot of the university they couldn't afford. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. The surgery was complete. The tumor was removed, and I had never felt so alive.